Hi, welcome to another episode of Zazzle Chat. Today I'm here with Gabryel, and we are going to be talking about trends. So the origination of trends, how Zazzle uses trends, and most importantly, how you guys can utilize trends to help increase your own sales. So before we get into that, let's meet Gabs.
Hi guys, I'm Gabryel and I am a senior product merchandiser for Zazzle. And so we're storytellers. And what we do is we kind of craft our messaging on the website by using cute products and trendy designs so that you guys have a really good shopping experience.
Awesome. And how long have you been at Zazzle?
I've been with Zazzle for roughly 3 years now.
What did you do before Zazzle?
So it's so funny. I used to work in the fashion industry probably for about 8 or 9 years, and I've done buying and merchandising in different roles for companies, retail companies like Saks, Armani Exchange, Marc Jacobs.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
Definitely gives you credibility when we talk about trends.
I hope so. Just a little bit.
So what do you do in your free time?
So I love cooking. I love fashion. So I'm on Pinterest a lot. I find myself like pinning things to my boards and looking for new recipes, looking for some really cool clothes, especially since I'm pregnant now. I really need to find like some really cool clothes that I can fit in nowadays, some trendy looks. So that's probably what I'm doing on my off time.
Don't worry, I'm not pregnant and I'm still trying to find clothes I can fit into, so
you look great.
But okay, I always like to ask this to all my guests, but what's your favorite Zazzle product?
So Zazzle has so many products. For the most part, I really like tote bags and notebooks. They're so easily customizable. We have some cool designs, cool trends, and they're great, like for gifts. So,
yeah. Okay, question for you.
Yeah.
Now that we're jumping into the meat of the chat, how do you define trends? What's your definition of it?
So trends are basically like the way that things are flowing in the direction that they're flowing and what's like current, what's super popular, what's popping. And you see trends everywhere. So I think any like little thing that you see, things on television, things on social media, those are pretty much a lot of the trends that you're going to see.
So in my opinion, trends are like subjective and they're personal.
Yep.
So don't they vary by person then?
Yeah, I'd say so. When I think of trends, I think that they're subjective, similar to fashion, because they're based off of people's opinions, right?
Yeah.
And so somebody's going to always object to your opinion, or they're not going to like your opinion. So,
Yeah.
but you know, the numbers don't lie. Like trends are what they are, and they're what's popular, and they're what's current, and it's what people are doing.
So even if you don't like skinny jeans, for example, but every retailer is selling skinny jeans, it's probably trending because other people are buying it.
Of course, yeah, perfect.
I recently reread the book, The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, and that book talks about basically 3 factors of what's like the tipping point before something turns into like an epidemic or a trend.
Okay.
And the first one is the law of few, which is like influencers or connectors or a couple people are influencers. The second is the stickiness factor. So there's different, if it easily caught on. And then the third is the power of context. So what other things are happening around it.
Right.
And so even though you just boil it down to those 3 things, I think that really does help define like trends and how they catch on.
Right.
It's really interesting to me as a marketer, even though it doesn't look like it. I actually did not grow up with, a smartphone in my hand. I know I look so good for my age.
You look great.
But, and we got the internet when I was in school, but like I didn't necessarily grow up with it. That being said, I think the internet has changed how trends and, access to information for everyone. And that's so fascinating because if you think about in the 1800s, fashion houses had very limited fashion houses and they would set the trend for, the next couple years till someone took a boat across the pond,
right.
or,
Yeah.
And now like something happens and fast fashion and, for better or worse, you can get that in Zara, like in 3 weeks.
Yep, exactly.
So it's really crazy to me, and especially now, like to talk about trends because it's continually evolving.
Yeah.
And so it's not something you can like study once and, oh, I get it. It's
Yeah.
something that's continually changing.
Yes, you
especially
are so
in our
correct.
landscape.
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, so understanding that, how does Zazzle use trends?
Oh gosh, we use trends every day. Like we're always trying to stay on top of like all the new products, all the new like colors, all the new themes. You're going to see that on the home page. And we're constantly like looking at data also, like our search terms report. And that's basically when people come to our website and they're looking for like all these different products, all these different themes, what's coming up most often. And so we want to make sure that we reflect that on places like our home pages or our product pages. So we use trends like every day. Anywhere you go on the website, you're going to see trends.
Exactly. And I would think from a marketing standpoint, I think if you break it down, there's like, we use it both internally and externally. So internally, there's certain factors that we looked at. You mentioned like search.
Yep.
You know, our sales data.
Yes. PR.
What customers are buying,
Yep.
what terms they're searching for. Even if they're not buying, they're getting click through. So we have all that
Exactly.
data, especially in the e-commerce side. I think that's the beauty of e-commerce. You have all this data. But also, in addition to that, we also look externally as well, because we can't just, you know, focus on ourselves.
Right.
I think we look at competitors.
Also, yes, always.
We definitely look at what competitors are selling. We look at broader trends. And I know you work on pulling a trend report. What do you look at?
I look at places like Instagram, Pinterest. Pinterest has like a really good report that they publish. They have quite a few actually that I look to. I look at influencers. I look at places like BuzzSumo, Trend Hunter, but also I do a lot of Google search with Google Trends, and yeah, those are pretty much a lot of the places that I look.
And so you distill this information, and what do you do for this information, and how does Zazzle take that information and actually utilize it?
So I just go to Google. Google is pretty like, I'm sure everyone has gone to Google at some point. You go in, I think they have like a trend section that you can type in whatever information you're looking for. It's pretty simple as that. If you go to places like Instagram, they have a search bar and you type in and you have hashtags that you can look for, or you go to Pinterest and just type in whatever topic you're looking for. I think looking for trends is pretty simple.
So how does Zazzle use that information though? So you kind of gather that information. What do we do with that information?
So we use it on the home page. We make sure that we want to inform our customers without being so in your face, but we put it on the home page. We put it on our product pages. We make sure that internally all of our teams know exactly, you know, what's trending. We have a type of report that we kind of like all look through to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as like color schemes and themes for the year. So, you know, we use it in so many different ways.
It pays when Zazzle is relevant. For example, earlier in the year, Elizabeth Warren was shut down, and there was a famous saying that came because of that. Nonetheless, she persisted.
Yes.
And our designers were, you know, following the news, were following social, and they kind of saw this trend picking up speed.
Yes.
And they started creating mugs and shirts and stickers. And
In real time, yeah.
yeah, in real time, and within 24 hours, we had a huge search list of really cute products that were not only trending but selling, and we also got a lot of PR coverage for that.
Yes.
So something like that is how Zazzle, we're looking at the sales data on the back end, so when we see something trending, we'll promote it. And so that's a really good example.
Yes.
Another example is unicorns. Surprise, they're trending. I just learned they're not real. No, just kidding. They are not real, but the PR we get from them is real.
Yeah.
We were contacted by a Florida, news agency, and we sent them some products, and they featured unicorn designs. So we were able to search, and the designers who had wonderful unicorn designs were featured.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, just being able to stay on trend. There's designers who are able to stay on trend. They'll get, sales, coverage, clicks.
Yes.
And so it helps Zazzle, but it also helps the designers.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that being said, how should designers use trends?
So designers should use trends by, well, first off, they should just take advantage of like all the free resources out there. There's Instagram, there's Pinterest, there's Google. Go through those trends, see what's really hot right now, and translate those trends into your own design aesthetic. Come back to Zazzle, make some bomb designs, some really cool designs, and those designs populate. We use them, and
Yeah. So
sales happen.
I would actually break that, take a step back, and I would say, think of yourself like a business. So like I said, Zazzle uses internal data and external data. So first of all, look at your own store internally, like what products are selling for you, what designs are getting you the most clicks, how are people coming in through your site. So figure out what your specialty is. So that internal data, right?
Yeah.
And then externally, look again at who are your competitors. What does, if you are a wedding designer, maybe look at what the other top selling wedding designs are. Not just on Zazzle, but other sites.
Our competitors,
right?
Yeah.
And not necessarily copy their designs, but see what the design aesthetic is.
Exactly.
So there's definitely a lot of, there's so much data. That being said, there's so much free data as well.
So much free data. And also, I want to add to that, again, we're always featuring the trendy products and the trendy design types and the trendy colors. You can see a color scheme throughout the site. Make sure you pay attention to that. I think it's valuable information.
Yeah. So, and I mentioned this earlier, what's trending is kind of a full-time job. It's not like you search once and you're done. You kind of have to, if you really want to stay relevant and stay up on the know, you don't just read the news one day. You have to continuously read it.
Yes.
So that you're aware. But
they're ever changing.
We did want to offer you guys some resources so that you guys know how to search for these trends. I think you mentioned Google Trends earlier.
Google Trends, Pinterest, Instagram.
So how do they use Google Trends?
So you can just go to Google and type in anything that you're looking for, but there's also I think they have Google News, Google Images. There's also Google Trends, and so you go in and I think you can maybe search by date, or you can see different graphs. Just go in and
so I'm a very visual person, so I actually like going, and they always have fun search terms. The other day it was who's more popular, Kim Kardashian or Taylor Swift? And I'm a very visual person, and I love numbers too. So seeing stuff like that was really interesting for me. And then from that, it's a good jumping off point. So are floral more trendy in the eastern part of the country versus succulents on the western part of the country? There's just so many really interesting things that you wouldn't necessarily think about, but it would help you get inspired. So Google is definitely a great resource. You mentioned Pinterest earlier.
Yes, Pinterest is also a great resource. They have so many different reports, or you can just go into Pinterest itself, into the search box, and type in any type of motif, any type of search term, and go from there. Yeah,
I actually read Pinterest reports in my free time. So not just pinning, but I actually like to see, they come out with different reports, I think every month, home, baby, decor, and they use tangible data. For example, people have been pinning large jewelry, so they predict it's going to be a big hit because people have been pinning it 973% more than last year.
Right.
So they have that data, and it's funny, everyone's we don't want to share our data, but even when you're pinning stuff, we can gather all that data and you can kind of utilize it, which as a marketer, obviously, if it's my personal data, on its own, but if it's aggregate, I don't mind sharing it because I think it's just interesting. I think,
it's good
understanding how society works and you know, these trends are just, I personally just like I said, I like reading that in my free time.
Right.
So there's definitely Pinterest trends. I would say, so my background is actually in advertising. I used to be in advertising in New York,
Right.
and even advertising has trends. Like when you look at trends, like the average, like in the 60s, it's like crazy when I see like ads like, you know, if the roles were reversed, like if a woman was in a man's position, a man, just like it, advertising is a great reflection of the current culture.
Yeah.
So I find advertising is a great way to kind of pick things out. You mentioned social media, right?
Yes.
Social media is like a gold mine because it's not only visual, but there's data collect next to it. I know Facebook comes out with trend reports that you can probably Google for free. Instagram has what pictures are being, or what locations are being, like photos are being tagged
Right.
at. There's just so much data, and we can give you a couple reports to follow, but it would probably be more beneficial if you were able to find your own blogs or kind of resources
Yeah.
to utilize it.
Yeah.
Basically, there's so much information out there, but if you had one last takeaway for our designers, what would it be?
I think to stay true to your design aesthetic, there are so many free resources out there. Definitely utilize those. Draw inspiration from the places, the people around you, and design what makes you comfortable, what makes you feel good. If you don't want to step outside of the box, that's okay. Just do what makes you happy.
Yeah, I think it's important. Trends are great and they help inspire things, but don't focus on designing if that's not who you are. I think it works best when you can use trends to enhance your own aesthetic.
Yeah, I
Cool.
agree.
Well, we hope this was helpful. Again, we hope you guys can draw inspiration from all the trends around you. Until next time.
Thanks.